Today's lesson is Chapter 2, Lesson 3, Least Common Denominator. In the past, you may have learned this lesson as least common multiple. It's really the same thing. We just call it least common denominator when we're working with fractions. Let's see how that works. Remember from last year, and possibly years before that a multiple is the product of a number and any other whole number. So for example, the multiples of 4 would be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on and so forth. They go on forever. If I wanted to find the least common multiples of 4 and 6, I would simply begin by writing the multiples of 4. And then write the multiples of 6. Again, it's important to remember that these multiples would keep going on forever. There is no end to it. But we're only interested in multiples that the two numbers have in common, and we're looking specifically for the least one, the one with the smallest value. If we look at the numbers we have up here, both of these numbers have 12 as a multiple, and also 24. However, like I said, we're only interested in the least common denominator, or the least common multiple. So that would be 12. So we say the LCM, or we're going to be talking about least common denominators, so LCD is 12. Now let's take a look at a problem involving fractions. We're looking for the least common denominator of 1/2 and 2/3. So what we're really looking for is the least common multiple of 2 and 3. As you can see, both of these numbers have 6 as a common multiple, and that would be their least common multiple. Here's where it gets a little bit more tricky. What we want to do is change both of these fractions so that the new denominator is a 6. That way they will have the same denominator, and we will be able to more easily add and subtract them, which is what we're going to be doing next. Here's how this works. I want to turn 1/2 into a fraction that has a 6 as a denominator. What I need to figure out is what did I multiply this denominator by, the 2, in order to turn it into a 6. If I can figure that out, then I have my answer for what to make the numerator up here. As we can see, 2 times 3 equals 6. As we mentioned in the last lesson, it's very important that whatever you do to the numerator, you do to the denominator, and whatever you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator. Here, because we've multiplied the denominator by 3, we now have to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. 1 times 3 equals 3. It may bother you that this number is not in simplest form, but don't worry about it. For what the work we're doing right now, it's okay to not be in simplest form. Now let's try the same thing with 2/3. Again, we want to figure out what we need to multiply that 3 by to turn it into a 6. Obviously the answer here is 2. If we multiply the denominator by 2, we have to multiply our numerator by 2 as well. This gives us an answer of 4/6. So now we've turned our original two fractions, 1/2 and 2/3, which while they're beautiful in simplest form, are not particularly easy to work with together, into two fractions that have the same denominator, 3/6 and 4/6. Now I'm going to give you a problem to try on your own. I'd like you to find the least common denominator of 3/4 and 5/6, and then change these fractions into what we call equivalent fractions that have that least common denominator as the denominator for both fractions. Hit pause now, and when you hit play, I will give you the answer. As you can see, the answer I got here is 9/12 and 10/12. If you had a hard time coming up with that answer, look at the work that I have written up here on the board and see if you can figure it out. For the second problem I'd like you to solve on your own, I want you to find the same thing we did with the last problem. Find the least common denominator for 1/2 and 5/8, then find the equivalent fractions for both of those that will leave you with two fractions that have the same denominator. Hit pause, work on the problem, and when you hit play, I'll give you the answer. This problem had a little bit of a twist to it that sometimes confuses students. As you can see, the answer was 4/8 and 5/8. After we looked and found the least common multiple of 2 and 8, which was 8, we then moved on and tried to find equivalent fractions. With 1/2, turning it into eighths was simple. 2 times 4 gave us 8, and 1 times 4 gave us 4, so we had a new fraction of 4/8. When it came to 5/8, things were a little more complicated because they were so easy. 5/8 already has 8 as a denominator. We only multiplied that numerator, or that denominator, by 1. Basically, we didn't change it at all. And if you don't change the denominator, you certainly don't have to change the numerator. So 5/8 got to stay 5/8. That's totally okay. We still have two fractions that have the same denominator. Both 4/8 is still equivalent to 1/2, 5/8 is still equivalent